Alright. Welcome to the Valiant Bradley James Doctor Who Season 1 Retrospective. Basically, this is for future generations, so that if they have an interest in the Doctor Who series, they have something of a guide to look back and learn about some of the highlights from the earlier part of the series. As of this recording, the series has been going on for 52 years. The year is 2016 currently, and I do not see the series stopping at any point. Alright. So, I'm going to start with a quick introduction to the series. Doctor Who is, as I said, a 50-plus year series from England and the UK, starring the titular character, Doctor Who, a mysterious man who travels the universe, the multiverse, the megaverse, in a device known as the TARDIS, a device that allows him to travel through both time and space. And I've had it recommended by a number of friends in the past, so I thought that I would watch the series myself. And I foolishly decided to start from the very beginning, back in 1963. So, where does the series really start? Well, it begins with two teachers at a London school talking about one of their bright pupils, Susan. I'm forgetting the last name, and I do apologize for that. Susan Foreman. I have it in my notes here. Yes. A peculiar young woman who seems to know a lot about history and science, and at times seems a bit intelligent beyond her years. However, recently her grades have started to drop slightly for some unknown reason. So, the two teachers, Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright, wish to investigate, follow up with Susan about, what's going on. Perhaps there's some difficulty at home, with a parent or guardian. Unfortunately, doing their research with the secretary at the registry, they find out that her current address is a junkyard. Most curious. Let's see. They do follow her home one day, and she does return to the junkyard. And upon investigating, they find a most curious police box among the junk. And a man steps forth from the shadows, saying that the police box in question is his device, and that Susan is his granddaughter. Of course, being the logical people that Ian and Barbara are, they are a bit skeptical of this device. So the Doctor invites them in, I would say, and they're whisked away on a journey across time and space. So yeah. Wow. So that's the basic story in a nutshell, and having watched the very first season myself, I can say that it is most interesting. They cover some neat scientific ideas, and they do cover quite a bit of world history, from time periods such as the French Revolution, the Aztec pyramids, Marco Polo in 1289, I believe it was. It's very intriguing, to say the least. Also, quick fun fact for you new people to the series. TARDIS is actually an acronym standing for Time and Relative Dimension in Space. Yes, fascinating, I know. And I found it noteworthy, so I wanted to share it with you. Spread some knowledge. Man. Let's see, Now, I have covered the basic story, and I've talked about, the beginnings of the series, but I want to avoid, spoiling everything that goes on, just because if you're really dedicated and interested in seeing the Doctor Who series, I don't want to ruin, oh, hey, this happens and that happens for you. Though, unfortunately, looking ahead at some of the events that occur, I will be covering some spoilers. At least for, the early part of the series, because this is material from 50-plus years ago. People may not remember it, or, some newer people who get in on the series may start at, I'd say, roughly maybe the 9th Doctor, or 10th, and may forego the earlier characters. And as the character investigator, I feel like it is something of my duty to at least acknowledge and remember the characters that go, well, I'm sure you can imagine where. Though I would like to point out one very important thing that pops up in Season 1. The introduction of the Daleks. Even people who don't watch the Doctor Who series have at least heard of the Daleks, and hear their mantra of exterminate. Seriously. And it was very interesting and cool to see that they had put together the Dalek design back in 1964, and have, for the most part, kept it the exact same, throughout these 50 years. And the design, I feel like, looked nice and futuristic back then, but that it also, transfers to the future going forward. So, just an interesting little tidbit. If you were curious to see the Daleks, they are in the arc known as the Dead Planet. I believe, I'll put the episode lists above my head. Or rather, with my technology, I can easily put it above my head. Also, I want to take the time and express my my appreciation for the very first Doctor, the man known as William Hartnell. Seeing him throughout the first season, he's an interesting, complex character. At times, in the very, very beginning, he comes off as, arrogant and snotty, honestly seeming to look down on, Ian and Barbara at times, for their ignorance. But it's understandable. I've seen some stuff throughout the season that made me go, okay, it kind of makes sense that he's kind of a jerk and he's kind of hardened and cold and has walls to keep people out, because traveling across the universe, megaverse, etc., you don't really get the chance to stick around and make friends and hang out with people. Yeah, he does use his charms and is able to interact well with people, and honestly, that's one of the coolest things that I think he has going for him, is just, he's so intelligent, but he's also so socially capable that he can interact with anyone, from the higher-ups, in an official setting, to the, more common man, and it's nice. It really is. Also, they do show times of him being very human, like how much he cares for Susan, and in a certain arc, whenever they go back in time, how he lectures one of the other characters about how they cannot change history. That, unfortunately, yes, he has tried, but no matter what, fate, God, whatever, has a set course for how things are going to go. And, yeah. I have a lot of notes to try and go over. For Mr. Hartnell, I would say my favorite bit of the series for him was during the Keys of Marinus arc. For, I believe it's 2 episodes, they have kind of a murder mystery event going on. Basically, in that arc, they have to find the 5 micro keys for a device known as the Conscience of Marinus. And one of the keys is basically held in a museum. One of the group is framed for the theft of the key, and it's up to the Doctor to solve the mystery. And what I really like is, the Doctor is so intelligent and well aware of this, and he uses, good logic and deductive reasoning to figure out, okay, who did this, what's going on, and ultimately sets a plan in place to capture this person. And it works so well. Like, honestly, I think Sherlock Holmes would have been proud to see how well he did. And although I am throwing a lot of praise on the series, I do have some negative things to point out, and honestly, it's not that bad, because, again, remember, this was made in the 60s. Technology now is a lot better than where it was for, like, video making and filmmaking and stuff like this. Like, I can put this together, like, honestly, within a 24-hour period. How long it took them to, like, make and record all this stuff, it must have taken them forever. Because they also had sets and other stuff and actual editing to do. So, bear in mind, I'm not hating on the series, I'm just pointing out some of the things that people said, some people just skip the first couple seasons because special effects are rough and not great, and some people can't see past that. And honestly, I think you're kind of weaker for that. Like, I'm just saying. I did, watch my fair share of shows like I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, other Nick at Night stuff like during the 80s and 90s, whenever they had, not so great special effects stuff, so maybe I'm kind of used to / okay with that, because I had some exposure to it. But, yeah. Let's see, and then just to give you some quick examples of, like, how bad the effects are. Like, for instance, they'll check the monitors, like, within the TARDIS to see how the outside world looks, and sometimes it's very clear it's a still image. Or, they're trying to make their way to a certain location, like a building or a city or something like that, and you can clearly tell it's like a model or like, just a background thing, but it was the 60s, it's the very first season of the series, like, you're not going to have, like, an awesome budget to do everything. Yeah, that sounds kind of familiar. But yeah. So, I mean, I'm not hating on it, like, and at times I got sucked into, some of the human drama of the stories and stuff, and I really felt the emotions. Again, that's probably just because I'm me, and, like, I'm really into, like, I can get into the stories a lot more, and so, like, not everyone's going to pick up on, like, the emotional stuff. And let me see. And then also, honestly, this is just a small, stupid nitpick thing. Like, you really have to pay attention for this, but in some of the, like, later episodes, the last few of the season, there were, like, small moments where actors seemed to kind of stutter, over some of their lines. Like, they would start a word, they'd, like, stop, and they'd start again. You have to really pay attention to catch those, though. Honestly, yeah, I think that's about all of the bad I had for it. Some not so great effects work, but it was the 60s. I'm going to give it a pass. And, the kind of flubbing lines thing is something that a person who's being more critical would notice. again, maybe not all of us will be, and I kind of hope so. And then, I do want to end this, like, on a high positive note. So, let's see, what else do I have? Oh, one of the things that I really liked was, every episode had some kind of cliffhanger thing at the end. So, like, it drew you into, like, oh man, I've got to see the next episode. Like, you know, you'd see a mysterious shadow, or, like, you know, something obscured in darkness or shadows or something. You know, it'd be like, okay, I got to see the next episode and see what the heck this thing is. I'm curious. You know, also, really quick, like, every arc is set in a certain number of episodes. So, like, let's take the very first arc, An Unearthly Child. It's in 4 episodes. You know, the Aztec Temple is set in 6 episodes. It's not like, okay, we're gonna have the Aztec thing. You know, you're like 5 episodes in, and then like about maybe 10 minutes into the episode, they're like, okay, we're going to our next planet. Goodbye. No, it's, you know, we get through everything, and the very end of it, you know, is like, okay, we're in the TARDIS, you know, we're going to our next place, and then, you know, credits roll. You know, I mean, maybe with some, like, some indicator of, okay, here's where the next place is, but, like, every arc is contained, you know, in a set number of episodes. It's not 4.5 episodes for this arc and 3.25 for this. It's 4 episodes, 5 episodes, 6 episodes, full episodes. So if you do want to skip an arc or two, you know, you don't have to worry about, oh man, great, like, I tuned into episode 7, and I'm seeing, like, the last 10 minutes of the Aztecs, you know, and seeing the next thing. And then some quick recommendations that I have for, like, some of the not as hardcore Whovian fans. Honestly, I would say, like, if you just want to see stuff that's relevant for the 50-plus time span, I would say check out the very first episode of, you know, An Unearthly Child, the Dead Planet arc, because it has the Daleks. And then, maybe, I would say, I believe the arc's called The Sensorites, just because it has another alien race that I don't know a lot about, but they might, I could see them popping up again later on in the series, because basically the Sensorite arc has these aliens known as Sensorites have interacted with humans before. And, you know, so they meet the crew and stuff, they have their little adventure. So I could see them potentially popping up again later on in the series, maybe. I don't 100% know, but it's worth noting. And then, like, I do want to say, I did really like the other arcs, you know, like, but in a 50-plus, like, time span, not everything's going to be relevant. Like, they're not going to pull up stuff from, like, oh, hey, we visited the Aztecs, you know, at one point, you know, or we met up with Marco Polo and we had this little adventure. Like, let's see, and then, like I said, in the end, like, the first season was excellent, awesome, I really enjoyed it. Also, really quick, for those who do want to be hardcore and watch everything, I do have to point out that there are some early episodes that are missing. For instance, pretty much the entirety of the Marco Polo arc, all I could find were just, like, stills with the audio over everything. So, like, you have stills from the episode, yes, and you hear the audio, but it didn't appeal to me as much. Like, I need both, you know, or, like, well, I need both, or if they would have written it, like, just as a story or something, I could get into that. But hearing the audio or still images, it didn't work for me, so I did, unfortunately, yes, skip the Marco Polo arc, which is 7 episodes. And then the very last arc, also, the Reign of Terror, a good number of the episodes, it seems like they were lost to time as well. However, on Dailymotion, where I was watching a lot of the series, courtesy of a channel known as Who at 50, another channel, I believe it was Zariba Overlord, had like animations for like the episodes for the Reign of Terror arc, and they were really good. It was like, I believe this is the right animation term, but it's called rotoscoping, where pretty much they have like the animation over the faces, you know, of real life people, and it just worked very well. Like, I enjoyed watching that. It sucks not being able to see, you know, the real life people, but there was at least a good link between a visual and an audio. Like, it looks so much like the people. Like, it was awesome. And I really appreciated it. And that is all that I have for the very first season of Doctor Who. 42 episodes, about 22 to 25 minutes each. If you're interested in the series, I'd say it's definitely worth a look. And like I said, for the not hardcore, my recommendations are the very first episode, the Ark Knows the Dead Planet, and of course, the Sensorite arc. Again, all episode lists I will have above my head. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to dive back into the series. That's awkward. So, until next time, everyone, have fun, stay safe, be hydrated, and I'll catch you next time, somewhere in time and space. Valiant Bradley James.